that secretary in an organization, how she thinks this email, she's gonna think it's so real, right? So first, I wanna go over the zero trust illusion. What is zero trust, right? Trust nothing. Trust nothing, right? There's an old saying in security, trust but verify. This is what zero trust is, right? Not only people, right? We want to give authentication and integrity checks to everything on the network, inside and out. No one is safe. Just because you came into my network and you went through the first perimeter, we did an authentication check, now you don't ever get a check again, we allow you to go anywhere. Zero trust does not allow that, right? The over-reliance, like I said, zero trust has become a mainstream buzzword. I've seen a lot of systems, vendors, I should say, use zero trust to try to win customers. But I'm like, first of all, have you actually taken assessment of this architecture? Because that's key, right? How can you implement zero trust on an architecture that's not built for it? Like, right? So, but we have to be able to educate the customer, and it can't always be about bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. Go, 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 go. And I think that's a huge problem, just a 2-minute, 30-second rant, where cybersecurity is not in a budget. When they do budgets, it's like IT, and then you have cyber under that. Well, it shouldn't be like that. It should be cyber has their own budget. And then you have IT, right? And what that's gonna do is, if you're allocating the money towards cyber, then guess what? You can actually go in, hire professionals like myself who cost a little bit of money to go into your network and actually be able to not only educate you, but tell you on how to properly implement these things, right? So zero trust done wrong can be merely less trust. Authentication checks shouldn't equate to carte blanche access, which means you come in, we give you access to everything. I've seen that in so many organizations where they don't have separation of duties, they don't have least privilege enabled, which baffles me. So here are some mitigation techniques that I just wanted to highlight. I spoke to this earlier. Enabling MFA is probably the simplest thing an organization could do to decrease the chances of a successful cyber attack. Why? Right? It's a simple defense and death mechanism that's overlooked. And it shouldn't be optional. As a security professional that works day to day with dev engineers, senior architects, right, on a software development lifecycle, putting out software releases, MFA should be cooked into your CI/CD, right? As a developer, when I'm accessing repos, I should have MFA enabled. Why? Defense and death. When someone wants to access a system, you should have MFA enabled. What that does to an attacker, if you don't know, most attackers are lazy. They want the low-hanging fruit, right? I've seen some very apex, very sophisticated attackers, but when you start peeling back attackers and you start researching them, they're not really that sophisticated. Like the MGM attack that I highlighted, all that was somebody calling up the help desk with some harvest credentials that they got on the dark web and was able to compromise the network. And then I heard that they were like 15-year-olds. Blew my mind, because when I first heard of it, I'm like, oh, they hit Vegas. I'm thinking like, this is Ocean 15. I'm like, these guys are super, sophisticated. I can't wait to read the report to see how did they break into the system. And when I read that, I said, oh my goodness. The Lapis game, have you guys heard of Lapis? 13-year-olds. That blew my mind. I'm like, wow, these guys got more skills than me, right? Automation is gonna be our best friend. Us as security professionals and businesses that we support, we have to get these businesses to adopt automation. Why? Usually security teams are maybe about 3 or 4 people, if that. How can 3, 4 people ward off hundreds, sometimes thousands of attacks daily? It's too many, and it's not enough resources, so we have to start leveraging automation. That includes EDR, endpoint detection, response, SOAR, right? Security orchestration and automation response. These help fight back with automation. CrowdStrike, Falcon, and Centel One are really good vendors. I'm not being biased here, but they are. If properly configured, these devices will help as in your zero trust efforts, right? With your EDR and your SOAR. And what they'll do is they'll be able to leverage machine learning of your network and be able to not only send you notifications, but if properly configured, they'll be able to stop something in its tracks and say, hey, no, this isn't right, based on what you give it. Also, we have to take a proactive approach and assume that our network is already compromised. You have to assume that. That is one of the core principles of zero trust, is assume that you've been compromised. So many times organizations have adopted a reactive approach. Traditionally, what I think that is, hey, we're in a castle, we're gonna build a fortress around our castle, and we're not gonna let nobody in. Unless you have this green card, we'll let you in. But what about insider attack? What about rogue employees? What about honest mistakes? These are real, right? But we must implement zero trust. And here I highlighted, just a few tools that you could use for continuous monitoring. Of course, most of us know Splunk, right? You got QRadar, and also I wanted to highlight the behavior for rogue devices, shadow IT, and data exfiltration, right? Symantec DLP is a really good tool. We use that at one of my one of my clients. They use that. It's a really good tool. It lets me know who's trying to access data that they shouldn't be accessing and who's trying to move that data into places that it shouldn't be. Sometimes that data it should be exfiltrated because they have a client, but in other times it's a employee who's probably going to get fired soon and stealing data to then go to the competition and be able to leverage that data to the competition. These are real things, right? Network micro segmentation is another one that I wanted to highlight as a mitigation strategy to help empower and inspire you guys to go back to your organization and teach these things and implement these things, right? Traditionally, we have network segmentation, right? Where you segment a network, okay, IT, and within IT you may have HR, then you have, different agencies under that. But once you get into that perimeter, you're pretty much good. So if an attacker was able to compromise HR, then he's able to laterally move within that network that's been segmented. Well, I wanted to highlight network micro segmentation, which adds and builds on that, right? So, and I have depictions of this that I'll go over that better walk you through because I'm a visual guy. So, what is network micro segmentation, right? Breaking down a network into smaller segments. An over-reliance on this methodology breeds comfortability that you're safe, and this is traditionally what organizations have done, right? So micro segmentation, along with the privileges of least privilege, treat your network like a series of fortresses within a fortress, right? And here I highlighted some tools that I've actually used. Palo Alto Networks, I really like them. They do some things good, they also do some things bad. I think that they could do better, right? Cisco Firepower, I've heard of this. I've talked to other colleagues and friends of mine who leverage Cisco Firepower. I've heard good things. This is one that I wanted to highlight, right? Virtual Extensible Local Area Network, VXLAN, right? Probably, if you never heard of it, I'm here to tell you about it today, which basically allows a single physical network to be shared amongst multiple organizations without the other tenants on that shared network to be able to see what's going on. I want to warn you, it can actually break up, you can use this protocol to break up a network into 16 million different micro segmentations. That is a lot to manage. I would not suggest anybody do that because it's a lot to manage. Also, host-based segmentation. Use built-in firewalls, Windows firewalls, zero trust architecture. And like I said, I'm going to go over a depiction of this. I have a few slides after this that's going to walk through not only zero trust, but network micro segmentation, as well as this next slide here, right? Supply chain risk and firmware blind spots. Everyone knows now, if you don't know, attackers are getting smarter every single day. They're like learning. And I really, 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 really wish, as the good guys, we adopted some of their habits and methodologies. They share information all the time. I mean, hey, we hacked such and such organization and we found out that this worked. Hey, go try this on this organization. They share data constantly. As good guys, I've seen we don't do that. We don't share information. I don't know why, whether it's proprietary or what, but us as a security community have to come together and start sharing more information. Like on not only what we're noticing, but what we're seeing. Hey, we're seeing an attack. We're seeing an increase on phishing. We're seeing an increase on network intrusions. This is what we did. This is what didn't work for us. I think that we're able to leverage that like a Facebook community. I think we'd be able to bring down attacks more, right? Instead of seeing our good friends or our vendors on the front page of a news article saying they got hacked, and then you scratching your head as a CEO saying, oh my God, what are we gonna do, right? So supply chains are inherently complex, and firmware level compromises can be devastatingly effective, right? We saw this with SolarWinds, and threats continue to evolve. I highlighted earlier in the presentation that operating system security is a thing of the past. It's far too easy to focus on operating systems upwards while allowing underlying foundation to be not secure. Firmware, low-level software embedded in hardware devices are often overlooked and allow vulnerabilities within firmware. So here are some mitigations that I believe would decrease, and I've seen proven that they do decrease the chances of a firmware blind spot. Firmware integrity checks utilize tools like TPMs, trusted platform modules, to validate firmware versions to detect unauthorized modifications. Secure boot, easiest one, right? Firmware auditing, regular auditing the inventory of all devices and firmware versions within your network. Inventory audits, configuration baselines. Here I highlight Audit Board and WorkVia. These tools are really good to use in firmware auditing. Then you have supply chain hardening. As an organization, I've seen an influx over the past 20 years in the leveraging contractors or leveraging third-party vendors to delegate the work to. Well, as an organization, you need to start demanding visibility into that third-party vendor. You need to go to them and say, not only here's a checklist, but we want a weekly report on what you're doing, what you're adding to your system, what you're taking away from your system. We want inventory. This will help ensure that the firmware is doing this supply chain hardening will ensure that the firmware is developed and it follows a secure life cycle with 100% security checkpoints at each stage of the development. So on this next slide, here I told you I would give you some visuals, right? So this is traditionally what most networks set up, right? They just got a next generation firewall here that they have implemented, and you see once inside of this network, you can, if this system is compromised, right? Someone downloaded a supply chain software, right? Look at this. They're able to move laterally. This could be a database server, right? This could be your VPN server, right? Protection is only at the perimeter of the network segment, and lateral movement can still allow a host to move within the network, right? Implicit trust between hosts within the same segment. This is not good. There's a tool out there that I've been highlighting to a few people that I've met here at the conference over the weekend. There's a tool called Zero Networks. These are depictions that I grabbed from a YouTube video that they broke down on how to provide solutions for zero trust networking, micro segmentation, as well as supply chain attacks. They break down traffic into these three separate categories: client to client, server to server, and they have privileged ports. Right? I love what they're doing. They're actually leveraging machine learning, bless you. They're leveraging machine learning as well as artificial intelligence to help learn your network to be able to detect attacks early on in their early stages they're moving. So on this next slide, they really depict on how micro network segmentation, as well as integrity checks with zero trust, can actually help prevent an attack from occurring or originating, right? So not only do they have this next generation firewall, but what they also have that I really like, they have host-based firewalls on each asset within the network. I thought that was pretty cool, right? So here you have, if a supply chain software update compromises, this server here, well, it's unable to talk to this server because the number one, the ports are already blocked, as well as it has learned your network traffic that this server doesn't normally talk to this server. So individually assets are protected. They also have a zero trust server that monitors all of this traffic, right? And I've seen that what they do is they have working with like dual security or Microsoft authentication, they have a thing called just-in-time multi-factor authentication when you're trying to access a IT asset. What this does is when I'm trying to access this port, inevitably what Zero Networks does is close all 65,000 ports. So when you adopt this tool and you scan your network, you are unable to see what is on my network. But they also have a panel where, because they're leveraging the zero trust network as well as machine learning, and they call it their secret sauce, they know because of privileged ports as well as client to server network traffic, if this traffic isn't normal, or they're not, maybe the timestamp is off, or any unusual behavior, it won't allow you to communicate with any of these IT assets on the network. So not only does it take advantage of just-in-time multi-factor authentication, but it uses the privileged ports. So on a panel, they're able to, in real time, go open up a port. So let's say you have a vendor, he needs to access a particular asset. Well, I can then go into the panel as a system administrator, open up that port right then and there. It won't keep it open forever, right? It has a duration on there that would allow that port to be open. What that does is decrease the chances of someone, scanning your network, right? Because we all know that's the first thing an attacker's gonna do is call reconnaissance. He's gonna try to scan your network to see what's available. But if he's not getting anything on port scans, how can he attack something that's not there, right? So this goes back to, if he can't access it, he can't get to it. On this next slide, this is my last slide, talking about human error or AI with phishing attacks. AI is real, and as I mentioned earlier, social engineering is an age-old tactic by malicious attackers, but deep fakes introduce a new level of sophistication, and they're able to manipulate audio and video to bypass even the most cautious users. Yeah, it's a real thing. Trust but verify, I mentioned this. Implement a level of verification for unusual and sensitive requests, especially those relying on voice and video. Secret phrases or out-of-bound communication is a good way to decrease the likelihood of a successful phishing attack or artificial intelligence attack. Well, why you might say that? Well, we have a secret phrase when we're doing transactions over $50,000, and that this deep fake video is insane. I immediately know that that's a trigger that this isn't real because he doesn't have the phrase word. Or if I'm communicating on email, how don't I pick up the phone and call that person directly? Maybe not even on the business line, maybe on their personal line. Maybe hit them send them a message on a Slack channel and say, hey, did you just request us to move $50,000 from this account to this account? This is a great one I wanted to highlight, right? I mentioned that we want to fight back with automation and use and leverage AI technology. So convolutional neural networks, it's a new thing that I learned about as I was putting together this deck. What it does is it leverages also AI to be able to scan video audio, and environments for unusual behavior, because AI videos, although they appear to the eye to be very, very, very like real, inside of these AI deep fakes, the convolutional network is able to identify hand movement, voice, right? A computer doesn't sound like a human. It does, but then there are like certain breaks that can be detected within an AI deep fake. Also the environment. If it's a fake video, convolutional neural networks can scan that video to say this isn't real, right? Also, digital provenance and cryptographic watermarks are something new as well. And what that does is leverage blockchain technology, a ledger, to be able to show and tell you that something changed from the originality when this picture was created. Something isn't right, right? So we have to be able to leverage cryptographic watermarks and digital provenance to help us not only identify deepfakes, but also, in addition to identifying them, be able to decrease the likelihood that these attacks will have a successful, be able to successfully leverage us and steal whatever data that they need. I guess I'll open the floor to question and answers. Anybody got any questions that they want to ask me, or anything about the presentation? Gabe.
What do you think is the most consistent thing you see that organizations are like doing incorrectly or not doing at all?
That's a good question, Gabe. They're not doing anything. No, seriously. One of the things that I've constantly seen is they don't have the resources, the money, or the experts to actually, like I said, be able to adopt the technology. Too many times businesses just want to go. It's all about the bottom lines, about how much money can we make. And as a society, we have to start changing the way that we think in order to change the cybersecurity culture within our organization. Why are we so fast? Everybody wants to be the first to adopt something. Everybody wants to race towards things. I'm like, how about, maybe take a little while, right? iPhones come out all the time. I usually don't get the first batch, right? Why? Because there are going to be bugs, right? There are going to be things associated with that device that I didn't see coming. And now I'm unable to communicate with my loved ones because I have a device that is new to me and I have to learn all of the features, what doesn't work and what works. So before you get out of here, I wanted to highlight the poor effects of cyber hygiene. Inconvenience. I have a friend who has a smart refrigerator. I told him, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Trying to adapt everything that's new. We also have the extreme that we have a very big, serious problem with obsolescence. We still have mainframes and people programming in COBOL, and we're losing all the COBOL programmers.
This guy knows something. This guy knows something. Does anybody here know COBOL? You guys should be making a ton of money right now.
When the pandemic started, the federal government was looking for COBOL programmers because they were basically non-existent.
He's right. There are so many legacy systems, i.e. the government, don't let them hear me say this, that have built a bunch of networks, technology systems on COBOL. No one even uses that anymore. And I think I had a conversation with someone at the conference where they said that their agency spent up to like $1 billion trying to move away from COBOL, and it failed miserably. So I agree with you. A lot of networks are legacy, and what they're doing is they're failing to move away from legacy technology, which I think it's the stakeholders that don't understand technology. Right? They're making the decisions on what me and you should do, and they're not even consulting with me and you before they go procure a new software, before they go procure a new product. Yes?
Great, so I have that mentality when I start working. I work for federal government. I specifically do COBOL. That's what we do. We already spoke about it. And I was like, why do we still using mainframes and legacy address the system, like you said. And their answer is mainframe, you can't hack mainframe. Mainframe, right? Mainframes, the way they process the data is way faster than servers. And they need that speed to process the data. Because what I do is the DJMS for the military, so they process all the military pay from the armed forces here, right? So it's, man, the system is insane, huge. It's, nobody knows how is the system work because there's so much jobs and stuff for only one legacy system. So they try to recreate that with the new technology and they couldn't.
I personally believe that didn't work because their network didn't support that. While working at the Pentagon, I literally watched them adopt this technology is slipping my mind, where they placed instead of boxes, it's slipping my mind, they adopted like these small little boxes that you'd be able to access. And what it did to the Pentagon's network is it slowed it down.